Court documents dating all the way back to Halloween of 2018, when their baby girl was just 3 months old, begin to paint a picture of a man desperate for control and a woman desperate to do right by her daughter. In this video, I'm going to take you on a walkthrough of escalation of abuse. When people think battered woman, they have this photo in their mind of what that looks like. The fact is, a person that is a victim of domestic V doesn't always look like that photo that you're picturing. The assailant doesn't have a certain look either. This case is a case of DV in the form of financial, emotional, psychological abuse. This is a form of DV that is not recognized by most people, especially from the outside looking in. Why? Because you can't see it. The victim doesn't have a black eye, a broken nose, marks, or bruises. They have so far been fortunate to not yet have been physically hurt. But notice I say yet. All DV escalates. And in this case, there is a paper trail of escalation in the form of court documents filed by both Cassie and Marcus. Towards the end, Marcus files a series of motions with the court that show, in my opinion, that he has lost all control. He realizes he lost the control over Cassie, and he now has lost control over himself. With each new fact that I show you, you will soon recognize a pattern of abuse.
I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. Out of control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me. So welcome to anyone who is new here. I hope that you like what you see, and if you do, please go ahead and hit that like button if you learned something. Just overall, if you like the video. I know what I'm going to be talking about is not pleasant. True crime usually is never pleasant, but if you learned something from it, if you gained something from it, if you agree, go ahead and like that video. It really does help me out, and it helps my video move through the algorithm so that other people have a chance to see it. This case in particular needs awareness spread about it. It is something that happens to women every single day, every hour, every minute, and we need to come together so that we can end this type of DV, because that's what I believe happened here. So, in this video, we're going to fill in some of the speculation from my last video with facts. And one of the first things that I wanted to address that I had to speculate on in the last video is this DVI that she reportedly filed, Cassie reportedly filed. We now know that she did, in fact, file it. And on Halloween of 2018, when Sailor was just 3 months old. So she had filed this a long time before this happened. She filed this DVI, which is a domestic violence injunction, on behalf of both her and Sailor. And it was found that there was enough evidence for the judge to grant a temporary injunction until a hearing would take place in November. Now, these DV injunctions are not easy to get, which is why initially I thought either maybe she didn't file it, thinking she didn't have enough, or that it wasn't granted. But we know now that it was. The issue is the temporary injunction was granted. So there had to be enough sufficient evidence and probable cause for the temporary injunction, but unfortunately in November, when the case came up to be permanent, it was dismissed. And this is the first of many court filings. So hang on, grab a coffee, a tea, a wine, water, whatever your poison is, pick it, sit down, grab a pen and paper if you want to take some notes down, because we are going to go over all of these court documents that have been filed, and we are going to see where this started and unfortunately maybe fill in some blank spaces as to why this happened. Okay. So here we go. really quickly, I want to thank all of my subscribers who have been patiently waiting for me to come out with this. I was supposed to be out last week and I got very sick, and I'm still, but I want to get it out because, things move. Things move. And I mean, I can't just sit here and not make videos when I got all this information that I looked up to tell you guys. So we're moving. So a few months later, in March of 2019, another DVI is filed with the court. This DVI, however, was filed by Marcus, and it names Cassie's mother as the accused. Marcus cited that Cassie's mother had screamed at him that she had a gun. He also states that during this time, he had been staying some nights during the week at Cassie's home with her and Sailor. He said that this DVI was to inform the court that he felt he needed to let them know what was going on. And in this injunction, he also included this statement: "I've had access to my daughter as much as I would like, even though my daughter lives with her mother and we have yet to come up with a parenting plan." And I wanted to point out that statement because it goes completely against the statement that he makes in a later filing after this. So just make note of that. And this is where Marcus's manipulation with the court begins. With this allegation, he's beginning to paint a picture with the court that he is this loving father with nothing but the best intentions for his daughter, yet Cassie and her family are not cooperating. 2 months later, in May of 2019, Sailor is now 9 months old, and this is about 4 days before Cassie's 35th birthday. And as a wonderful birthday gift to Cassie, Marcus decides to call DCF and report that Cassie has been abusing their daughter, Sailor. The allegations in this were petty AF, in my opinion, and they included things such as Cassie having a medical marijuana card, that she drinks excessively, and that one time Sailor had a huge bruise on her forehead. And when he asked Cassie about that bruise, she said that she picked her up from daycare with that bruise. Marcus said, I think she got it from crawling. Well, newsflash, Marcus. I mean, that's not abuse. That's a child learning gross motor skills. Any of you, I have a toddler right now. And if I could say that she doesn't have a bump here and there or a scratch here and there from falling on a toy, or even she even does this weird thing where she hits her own head against the wall sometimes, like just to see what it does. Like, they're crawling, they're learning to walk, they're doing lots of things, and I'm sorry, one bruise is not abuse. And he basically said he felt she got it from crawling. Okay, well then she got it from doing what babies start to do as they grow. They learn to crawl, right? I mean, this guy just from the start is whacked out. But that's my opinion. So he files this, and ironically, this call to DCF comes directly before Marcus filed for full primary custody of Sailor. Undoubtedly, in my opinion, this was to help his case. Let me create some doubt that she's a good parent before I go ahead and file for full custody. That way, when they pull this up, they're going to see that there's already an issue. He did his homework. We'll give him an A for effort. Because May 24th, 2.5 weeks later, is when he filed for this primary custody. In my opinion, this is right away where we can see that he has some narcissistic tendencies. This is a way for him to create kind of a smear campaign against Cassie, where, he's going before he goes all out and asks for primary custody. He wants to paint her to look as a shitty mom, so that when he asks for primary custody, right away the judge grants it. In his mind, this is what he's thinking. So let's smear her name a bit before making this drastic request, right? This way I have a better chance of getting what I want. Allegedly, this is what I think he was thinking. The goal here for Marcus, was he wanted to create as much doubt about the other parent, Cassie, in hopes that the other parent, the parent with the request, aka Marcus, not only gets his way, but to slander and to cause as much pain as possible, to gain as much control as possible. It's a manipulation tactic towards the court. In this filing, Marcus alleges that Cassie has substance abuse problems and that she abuses prescription drugs, illegal drugs, and that she is excessively drinking daily. He also goes on to add that Cassie has psychological problems that affect her ability to take care of their daughter, Sailor. This is also his chance to refute Cassie's DVI that she filed and the allegations against him, which he does, of course, saying that these are all false allegations and that she routinely prevents him from seeing Sailor for no reason, which is completely opposite. Like I said when I told you to remember that's completely opposite of what he said in his original motion to the court, was that he was able to see Sailor whenever he wanted. He was even staying nights over there with Sailor. Now here's the big kicker. In conclusion to this request, that he asked that the court only allow supervised visitation between Cassie and Sailor. I mean, what a fucking pile of shit. I'm sorry for my mouth. So in a sense, what he has done here is not only just filed for primary custody, but he has also said that Cassie should not be trusted alone with her daughter and that she should be only allowed supervised visits with Sailor. So I'm going to take the child now from you, and you'll never be able to be alone with her again either if I can have my way. Before you guys get all ticked off and pissy, this does not end up happening, okay? Spoiler alert, but I just had to say it because it's so aggravating. So he files for primary custody, but he slanders the shit out of her and creates probable cause that now she's going to have to disprove, right? As if it's not expensive enough to fight in a custody battle as it is. This woman had to have been devastated. Cassie had to have been devastated. This is a woman that had, from her GoFundMe, we can see, suffered with infertility in her past marriage. And from what I kind of gathered, this is why the marriage ended up failing, was because she couldn't get pregnant. And now here she is pregnant with a surprise blessing of a child that she has always wanted. And the father of that child, for no reason other than spite and his own narcissism, is not only trying to take that child from her, but calling her abusive, calling her an addict and alcoholic, mentally unstable, and just overall painting her as this horrible, horrible human being and horrible, horrible mother. Which, by the way, is exactly what abusers do. The crazier that they can make the victim look, the better. It makes them look more normal. So May 29th, Cassie is served with these documents. And like I said, she had to be completely beside herself. Another month passes and another filing with the court takes place. It was made by Marcus and it was for child support. Now, Cassie already filed for child support from Marcus at this point. So here we see Marcus yet again filing some bogus document to further complicate things. In filing this child support order, however, Marcus is now going to be able to see all of Cassie's financial records, which is another power play, in my opinion. In case you have been fortunate enough to never having had to deal with child support, let me briefly explain how it generally works. So things are a bit different now than they were back when I was divorced, but certain things generally have remained the same when it comes to primary and secondary custody situations. So joint custody, I really don't know how that works. I would only be able to assume that because the child or children live in both homes equally, usually in that sense. And the amount of time throughout the month, there really isn't any child support paid to either parent. So because they share it. They completely share the custody. So I don't know how support works there. I feel like it's just an agreement. They just share everything. It's not a problem. And that is so wonderful. When parents can be adults about things and let the kids be kids. They get along, they communicate well, and everything they do is in the best interest of the child. This is usually the best circumstance. Unfortunately, this is not the case for a majority of parents who have decided that it's best that they go their separate ways. In this case, the primary custodian or parent with primary custody is paid child support by the secondary custodian. The child will usually reside primarily with one parent, and the parent that they do not reside with is the one that pays the child support to the one that they do. They also usually get the every other weekend, 1 day a week, and every other holiday. That is the standard schedule that the court will give you. If you cannot agree or you haven't yet figured out specifically what you guys want yet, that is kind of the standard what the court will give you. So child support is based off of income, and a certain percentage of the non-primary parent will pay a percentage based on the number of children that the couple shares. So during this process, the judge will ask for all financial information in an affidavit form, and this is required of both parties. The income, household expenses, credit cards, debts, etc. So when Cassie filed for child support, she was able to get Marcus's financial info. And now that he filed as well, he can now get her info. And you get this all before going to court. So he can analyze it and he can come up with whatever he wants as far as, where to point things out and things like that. Like I said, it's a power play. He gained more knowledge, and as we all know, knowledge is power. These are not the actions of someone who is concerned about the safety of their child, in my opinion. These are things that people do to avoid paying their child support. Marcus is not paying child support to Cassie at this point in where I'm at in this story. He's not paying it. He has excuses for it, and he just keeps filing these motions to kind of extend the court hearings. And this is a tactic. This is a tactic that they will use. He has since filed for primary custody and child support from Cassie, offering only supervised visits. This is all about money and power for Marcus. In my opinion, if he was worried about Sailor at all, he would have filed an emergency custody hearing, asking for nothing in return but the fact that he knew his baby was safe with him and away from the abusive parent, right? He wouldn't give two shits about money or anything. He would file an emergency order saying, I need my baby daughter with me now. I am scared for her safety. I don't care about child support. I don't care about money. I don't care about any of that. I'm afraid for her well-being at this point. I need custody of her, right? So, June 18th of 2019, after exhausted from all the mind-fucking court drama Marcus has been putting her through, Cassie retains a lawyer. She realizes, I can't do this on my own. We were trying to be amicable. It's not happening. He's nuts, and I need some help. So her attorney files a counter petition. One of the most important pieces of this petition was about establishing a timeshare schedule for Sailor. That Cassie, the mother, would be the primary custodian of Sailor, as she always had been thus far. Cassie also filed her financial affidavit with the court, which detailed every single bill, as well as her income. Surprise, surprise, Marcus still hadn't filed his. And remember, she asked for it first. Then he files this thing asking for it. She's got hers here, like she's supposed to, and he still hasn't turned it over. So Marcus now has Cassie's financial information and has refused to bring forth his own. June 19th, the very next day, Cassie's attorney files a motion for production of these documents against Marcus. 2 hours later, Marcus files an amendment to that motion. Ugh, you guys, this is done specifically to mess with Cassie. It costs money every single time you talk to your lawyer. Every time your lawyer goes to court, it costs money. Every email, every text message, every phone call costs money. And a lot of times, these other people they know this, and they want to drown you in financial debt. They know that they are not paying a lawyer at this point, and so they can file as many motions as they want. He's obviously, like I said, he's done his homework. He's looked into how to file these motions, which anyone can find out. Anyone can file motions, okay? For free, a lot of times just a filing fee. He's done his research. He's figured this out, and she's sitting here having to pay her lawyer to go after all of these things. So it becomes a problem, and I know this from personal experience, you guys. I was dragged through the mud with my stuff. So I know for a fact, and that's why this case really pisses me off, because I can see exactly what's happening here as it's happening. Let's keep going. So like I said, this is a tactic that I'm familiar with, and I suspect Marcus figures that if he keeps filing all these senseless motions, that eventually Cassie is going to give up. She's going to be pushed to her limits financially, and she's going to be like, oh, just give him what he wants, But he picked the wrong one, because she never gave up, as we know. The same day, Marcus also filed an objection to a hearing that was completely different to this docket. So there was a hearing from the original child support order that was coming up, and he decided to file an objection to that hearing, and where she was asking for child support from Marcus. And what this would do is delay Marcus from being held responsible for that back child support that was due up until that point. So what happens is, when you have a child with someone and you go into court for child support, it starts from when that child is born. So from her birthday up until however old she is now, if no child support was paid, but there was an order in place for it, then whoever is ordered to pay has to owe that still. So they'll add that onto the child support that's current. So, and this is, like I said, here we see, this is always about money for Marcus. So he right now is trying to get out of that back support. Dude, the child was here. The child still cost money because you delayed and you didn't pay on time, and now you're behind. You want to just say, oh, well, I shouldn't have to owe it now. The time has passed. No, that's not how it works. Oh my goodness. Just get me riled up with this one. My cheeks are probably already getting red. Are they redder than when I started this video? Probably. My blood pressure is rising. So he wanted to be able to see his daughter whenever he wanted, which, let me remind you, was only on his court scheduled days. And you will see this later on. He never really wanted to have her for more than his court scheduled days. He never fought for more time, and he never accepted any more time that she offered to him. So, yet he wants sole custody. And even the scheduled days that he had her, he hired a babysitter a lot of the time. And he didn't financially support her at all so far. Shocker. Now, this is what we call a deadbeat dad, everyone. Can we all give a round of applause for Marcus Spanavello, deadbeat daddy of the day? Yay, Marcus. Good job. Yet you want sole custody, but you feel that you don't need to spend time with your child unless the court orders you to, unless it's going to hurt the mother of the child. Yeah, you really care. Man, was I freaking off about him, right? Because the last video I said he must have been being a good dad, otherwise Cassie wouldn't have been saying, to spend time with them, right? I mean, maybe he was when he was with her, but honestly, he could have cared less. And most narcissists, they don't care about anybody. They're incapable of it. They can try all they want, but they're really incapable of having those emotions for people, right? Empathy, love, they're incapable of it. And not that it's an excuse, but at the same time, you can't expect it of them. They're never going to have it. So, July 8th, Marcus finally files his financial affidavit. And in it, he lists his expenses as follows. His mortgage/rent is $250 a month. That's so cheap. Oh my God, I'm not even going to tell you guys what mine is. Way more than that. His phone bill, $250. Medical and dental for Sailor, is $292 a month. So he's not paying hefty monthly fees. And I don't have his income. And even if I did, I wouldn't blast it out there. I'm not that type. But, so why is he not paying child support? $250 a month for the house that you're in, $250 for your phone, and $292, so $369. We say maybe like he's paying $1,200 a month. Oh, let me tell you why. He's got a huge trailer and a nice ass truck, which in total cost $70,000, which he obviously got a loan out for, so he's paying that off a month. He also has $10,000 in credit card debt and 2 personal loans totaling about $3,000. So he's got a lot of debt that he's paying, which is probably why he's having a hissy fit about the child support. Oh well, who doesn't have debt these days? Children still cost money, right? And the person that usually has custody of the child does whatever they can to make sure that the child's needs are met. There is no reason that the other parent should not be doing the same, whether or not the child lives with you. That is your child. So those are some hefty liabilities to pay. 2 days after he submits this financial affidavit, he was ordered to pay child support in the amount of $850 a month. He was also added on to pay an additional $168 in back support until the $5,500 in back support was paid off. So this would be a little over $1,000 a month. So his regular child support was declared by the judge based off of his income and his debt and his bills and everything, that he could afford to pay her $850 a month in child support. And then additional $168 until that $5,500 was paid off. So this is not, let me tell you something. And the $850 for one kid, I'm going to tell you right now, my first marriage, my 3 are from my first marriage. I don't get that for 3. I never have, and I guarantee I never will unless I go back to court. But this case right here is exactly why I don't. This is why I don't fight it. I give Cassie a lot of credit. However, they were in the very early stages, and I went through it for 3 years, and I just was like, I can't do it anymore. This isn't healthy for anybody. And anyway, enough on me, because if he sees this, he'll call me out and whatever. So anyway, he didn't pay it. So he's ordered to pay all this. He didn't pay it, according to the fact that on September 4th, Cassie filed another motion requesting production of his financials again. She felt that he was hiding bank accounts and bank information to avoid paying this court-ordered child support because he still hadn't paid it yet. So a trial was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Okay. So there was another hearing that took place in the meantime on September 20th of 2019 at 9 a.m. And this was a hearing that was set at the request of Marcus. It was a request for temporary relief, and it was on the foundation that he feared for his daughter's safety. One of the first pieces of evidence that he showed were receipts from 2 payments that he had made to Cassie, totaling $2,000. These payments were made 1 week earlier, and I believe that these payments were toward the back support that Marcus owed, that $5,500. So let's do some quick math here. Marcus owes $5,500 in back support, which has been added on to the $850 a month child support he has in the amount of $168. So $5,500 minus $2,000 leaves you with $3,500. Okay, Marcus, whoop-de-doo. I mean, you still owe more, but good job. Congratulations. You paid some court-ordered child support that you were ordered to by a judge. I mean, what does he want? A cookie and a bozo button? Did you also give her the current child support of $850 that month? In July, August, and September, because this went into effect in July. It's now September. I don't understand why he thinks he's doing this amazing deed of paying her money that he owes her. Basically, that's what the $2,000 covered, right? Because if he has to pay her $850 plus $168, that's a little over $1,000 a month. $2,000. That's still not all that he owes her. So what is he? Wow, dude. Congratulations. I guess. Sorry, but I guess what I'm trying to say here, sorry, not sorry, is that Marcus is clearly only paying the bare minimum just to keep his ass out of jail. And he chooses the time to pay it right before a court date. So, not when it's actually due. Does he honestly expect a judge who works in family court doing custody cases all day long to believe that he's this wonderful person doing these wonderful things? Because if that were the case, he wouldn't have back support, or he would have paid that immediately, and he'd be current, and he'd be showing receipts for his current child support, not something he paid a week ago because he knew he had a court date coming up. My opinion. I can guarantee you that this tactic is used daily in custody hearings. This is nothing new for a parent to play all sorts of games when it comes to financially supporting their children. It's sad, but it's a fact. He's trying to show that he's a good father, that he supports his daughter, but all he's really doing is manipulating the court into thinking that. In addition to these receipts for this $2,000, Marcus also submitted some photographs, some selfies that he took of him and Cassie in the hospital when Sailor was born, as well as some photos of him feeding Sailor a bottle. All of this in an attempt to show what a loving and doting and caring father that he is. This is another manipulation tactic. These photos are simply that. They're photos, and there's not very many of them. And what was lacking from Marcus's evidence pile was the evidence to back up his claims that he brought her into court in the first place, saying that he feared for Sailor's safety and well-being. He had no evidence that Sailor was ever in danger or that Cassie had ever harmed Sailor, which was the entire reason for this court appearance. And there was nothing brought forth about addiction or alcohol abuse or being mentally unstable, nothing. So Cassie's exhibits, on the other hand, really showed the reality of the situation. Marcus was going down, and I believe he knew it. He wasn't only going to be forced to pay this $1,000 a month in child support, but he was also looking like a liar. And he was looking bad, and Cassie was not. And his intentions of making her look like this horrible parent were now kind of backfiring based off of his lack of evidence to back up his claims. Cassie's photo exhibits were of her home versus Marcus's home. And Marcus's home, as you can see in these photos, have zero personal effects of Sailor's. There's no crib, there's no room, there's no toys, playpen, pack and play, none of that. Not high chair, booster, none of it. To show that a child had ever even been there, let alone that he was planning on fully taking care of a child in that home. Whereas Cassie's shows quite the opposite. There's toys, she has a room, she has a crib, she has a full fridge full of food. Everything that you would need to take care of a child, she had it for her daughter. And, you know, not to say that she had all the luxuries in the world, but she had everything a kid could need. And Marcus didn't even have a place for Sailor to sleep. And it kind of makes you wonder why he would want custody of Sailor to begin with. He didn't even have anything in his home for her that it even looked like she'd be comfortable while she was visiting him, let alone living there. I mean, I would think that if you're planning on getting custody and you've filed paperwork to get primary custody, that you would have something set up for that child. You know, and not even just for the child, but to show the court that you're serious, that you are, in fact, you have a place that you have set up for this child, and you have all the necessities needed to care for her. And he had none of these things. this just proves, in my opinion, that he never wanted full custody of Saylor. This was all just to blow smoke up Cassie's butt. And I hate to say it that way, but that's nothing against Cassie and everything against Marcus. He just wanted to paint her as a horrible parent, like he knew better, he had more, he could do more, and none of it was about Saylor. It was about money. He didn't want to have to pay child support. He wanted to get child support paid to him. And he's thinking, well, if I have full custody of Saylor, then Cassie pays me money. I just send her off with babysitters and whatever. And so a parenting plan was ultimately put into place by Marcus's attorney. And while it was temporary, it was granted on October 2nd of 2019, and it awarded shared parental responsibility between Cassie and Marcus. They would communicate via email and text, and Cassie would have primary custody. Excuse me. Sorry. And Marcus would have his weekends, Wednesday evenings, after school until 8 p.m., and every other holiday. Basically, with this filing from Marcus's attorney, meant that he was essentially abandoning his filings for full custody. He didn't fight this. So, I guess your owner's concerned for your daughter's safety, as you claim, Marcus. That, or you're just a big fat old liar. I think the latter. I think all of it. January 7th of 2020, things begin to escalate again. And this is getting close here. So as you can see, this abuse is escalating, and it's all right here in black and white as far as these court documents are concerned. Every motion filed is another hit, slap, punch, and blow to Cassie. Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and Cassie, no matter what, is not backing down. She was a fighter. And I admire that about her. Because as I've said, I have been in this situation and I felt backed into a corner, and here we sit. I have fear, and she didn't. And unfortunately, what happened, but I can really admire about her determination and her fight. So, unfortunately, Marcus isn't backing down either. And every time he files another bullshit motion that gets ignored, he's getting more and more pissed off. He's escalating. So, it's now January, and Marcus's lawyer has now recused himself. It isn't clear why Marcus's lawyer dipped out, but that usually happens when they're either not being paid on time, or the person that they're representing is being absurd and ridiculous in what they're wanting. They're usually non-compliant with the court. They're wanting to drag shit out, whatever the case may be. The professional, the lawyer, is not willing to work with someone who is just not doing the right things. He could be just he wasn't paying him on time. It could be that just that simple. But it also could be that he started to see that what Marcus was asking for was just ridiculous, and to protect his own reputation as a lawyer, not wanting to represent someone that could possibly make him look like a fool in front of a judge. So Marcus is back to representing himself. Shocker. And I said this in my first video. He seems like the type that would rep himself. And I really wonder what he's going to do in this case. Anyway, 10 months go by, and this case comes up in court. And since there hasn't been any movement in the case, a judge files to close the case. Yet, during that 10-month period, Marcus is still continued to terrorize Cassie, making her life a living hell, calling DCF, making all these outrageous claims, but there hasn't been any movement in court. So the court is wanting to close the case. The court has no idea this stuff has been going on. And here are some text messages that paint a little bit of a picture of the interactions between Marcus and Cassie during that last 10 months in regards to Sailor. These text messages took place on October 25th of 2019, and they pick up just into November. So in case you're confused, Cassie is known by Marcus in his text messaging as Miss Nagalot. So, I mean, how mature, right? So here's this conversation. It starts with Marcus seeming to respond to Cassie. We don't know what she said, but I'm just going to read these off to you. So Marcus says, listen, I don't have time to keep going back and forth on this. Enough with what attorney said. It doesn't matter what he said. I can take care of her next week. Cassie says, Marcus, I have offered you so many extra days in exchange for this next weekend, and I'm trying so hard to work together and co-parent Sailor. At this point, I'm not going to give you any more extra time since you clearly do not care and do not want to work together with me. Since you just replied that you could take time off, I will be making sure I change our agreement that when she is sick, you are required to take off work equal to me. I'm done talking about this. Have a good day. Marcus responds, I'd be just fine if you would make the days I have her equal to yours. So, am I keeping Sailor next week or not? Cassie says, you work out of town. I'm done talking about this. I don't understand why we can't work together. Marcus says, we didn't exchange. I'm not going to be having an argument about this. You made up your mind, and again, I have no saying on the subject. Cassie says, you had a say-so in September when your attorney asked you about it. I'm not trying to go against you. I've been begging you. We have to be a team or the rest of our lives will suck. What do you want from me? Marcus says to quit arguing. Cassie says, can we please work together? I will give you the following weekend too. This just means so much to me. Cassie also says, I hope you will find it in your heart to know how much this means to me. Let me know if you would like to see Sailor this weekend. And now, if you're confused, what's going on here is, in this text messaging is that Cassie wants to take Sailor to North Carolina for a trip with her family. Her sister, Rayanne, lives in North Carolina now, and there's a baby shower, and she wants to go there. She wants to bring Sailor. However, this is going to happen on one of his weekends. So because of that, she needs his weekend, and she needs him to okay it. So she's offering her weekends to him as well. You get it? She's wanting to swap. And this happens a lot, and usually it's not a problem with either parent. Most parents can work this out, and they'll either exchange weekends or forfeit weekends or whatever the case may be. But he's not responding to this from what I can see. And he's not saying yes, but he's not saying no either. Cassie says, again, I'm offering to share this weekend with you. Sailor and my father and I are going to North Carolina for my nephew's baby shower next weekend. I have told you this for weeks, and I have begged and pleaded for you to work with me. I respect your request about my mother. However, you cannot keep Sailor from her own family members. I'm still extending the offer for you to see her this weekend. I have shared with you the dates and times. I have asked for you to work with me, and I just do not know why you will not. Please let me know if you would like to see her this weekend. Thanks, Marcus. I also offered you to join if you are concerned about her safety. Come with us. And Marcus replies, listen, I'm getting tired of telling you that I don't want to argue about that. There is a judicial order in place that tells us what to do. Cassie says, I'm following the order. There is nothing wrong with me offering more time and willing to work with each other. Marcus says, I'm done talking about this. You made your point and I've made mine, and we are not in agreement. If you text me about this again, I'll ignore. So it looks like Marcus is basically saying no, yet he's not actually saying no. It's kind of a mind fuck and a power play, in my opinion. Marcus knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows that technically she cannot take Sailor on his weekend without his permission. She's basically offering him all the time that he wants with Sailor to make up for this weekend, but he's throwing the court papers in her face, the parenting agreement in her face, basically saying, you know what, this is what you wanted, this is what you got. The judge said, this is our agreement. That's my weekend, not yours. And so I'm not switching weekends with you. I'm not trading weekends with you. You know, he's not having it. And from what I can see, for no reason other than to throw the parenting agreement in her face, basically saying, look, you wanted these arrangements, you got them. You stick to them. This is what you wanted. And I am very familiar with that tactic. So Cassie ignores that and says, on another note, if you're in town, would you like to have a night or time with Sailor this weekend? Marcus says, wasn't planning on being in town since it's not my weekend with Sailor, so I won't be in town. Cassie says, okay, it's funny because I offered other weekends that were not your weekends and you were back in Florida as soon as possible for that time. But okay, Marcus, please remember, if anything, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about my family nor your family. The bottom line is Sailor. What is best for her? I will respect you when it's reasonable. I pray that you will do the same in the future for our daughter. She wants us happy. When we are happy, she is happy. She doesn't need any stress or anxiety. We will have to work together. I am willing to 100%. Have a good night. So obviously, at some point, Cassie is able to take Sailor. Whether he agrees to it or not, she does go to North Carolina with Sailor to visit her family. And Cassie, as a good co-parent, sends Marcus some information about this trip, some photos and, just a little bit what Sailor's doing. She had some calamari. Have you ever tried giving it to her? Things like that, just sharing because he's not there, to not leave him out, right? To say, hey, look, your daughter's having a great time, try it next time you have her. Take her for some calamari. She loves it, Marcus sends back, don't want an update, don't want you to share. Stop bothering me. Cassie says, I'm not trying to bother you. I was just letting you know that she's safe and happy. If you want to see her, please let me know. I just wanted to ask again if you would like to see Sailor tomorrow. We will be home around 9 a.m. You can have her and take her to daycare Monday if you would like. Please let me know. Thank you. No response. Go figure. He's annoyed. He's annoyed by her. He doesn't want Sailor. He doesn't want her talking. He's probably jealous, that she took her. Who knows? But he doesn't want to talk to her. And he's proven that by not responding. But Cassie tries again. Hi, Marcus. I'm not sure if you want to have Sailor this weekend. Please let me know if you would like to. Also, I was put to part-time as of today for a few weeks until I find another job. My office is closing. That being said, I can only hope that you will make your payments on time for Sailor's needs. I appreciate it. So he hasn't responded so far, and I'm assuming it's because he really doesn't care. It's not his weekend, and that he has no interest in seeing Sailor other than his court-ordered weekends. So if she takes Sailor on one of his weekends, then he'll just see her on one of his next weekends. He's not interested in sharing. He's not interested in any of that. And I'm kind of confused as to why she keeps asking him, because she is a little bit pushy on the subject, and I'm not blaming her by any means at all. But I understand that she's just trying to do right by her daughter, and she's giving him these opportunities. Plus, he has said in the past to the court that she hasn't given him the time that he wants with her, which is a lie. And this way, there's proof that she's been offering it to him, and he's refusing to take it. That could possibly be, the reason why. So, anyway, it's now November 4th of 2019, and here is Marcus again saying this weekend is your weekend. Cassie responds, I mentioned before I would give you my weekend when we got back. If you don't want it, that's perfectly fine. Daycare is closed on Monday the 11th. Can you watch her? Marcus says, I didn't agree to an exchange. As far as the 11th, if you can't watch her, I can, but I wouldn't be able to return her to you before the following weekend. Cassie says she can't miss daycare for a week. Marcus says, why can't she? She just did last week with you. So here Cassie is again asking whether or not he wants to use her weekend in exchange for the weekend that she took from him when she took Sailor to North Carolina. And Marcus states that he didn't agree to this exchange, therefore technically he doesn't want it, and he's happy to take Sailor on the 11th if she can't take care of her, which I'm assuming she has work. So it's not that she can't take care of her, it's that she would normally be in daycare and Cassie would be working, and so she offered it to Marcus, saying, hey, can you take her? Yet he chooses to gaslight her and insinuate that she can't handle her own daughter. And he's saying that he wouldn't be able to return her until the following weekend. Now, keep in mind, he doesn't live close to Cassie. It is a couple of hours away. So I do understand that he can't just take Sailor for a day and bring her back. It would be kind of like a longer term. And if he has work for the rest of the week, he would probably figure out some arrangement for babysitting for her and then bring her back. You know, that would be what's easiest for him. And he says it up front. He's following the court order. As much as I hate to admit it, that's basically what he's doing. So when he says he can take her and he'd have to keep her for a week and bring her back, and Cassie says she can't miss daycare for a week, he's quick to point out that she just did miss a week with her. And he's asking, so what's the problem now? You can do it, but I can't, kind of thing. And I don't know what to think about that one, you guys, because they both have a point. Knowing Marcus now, however, though, and what he did definitely makes him to be an a-hole. However, these text messages are really just him following this court order. He's very narcissistic and jerky about it, but he's a jerk and a narcissist. So what can we expect from him? He just comes off very annoyed anytime she texts him. Like, he just wants to do the exchange of Sailor, and that's it. He doesn't want any extras. No small talk, no sharing. He doesn't care about her life, her job, daycare, anything. Just stick to the court order and leave me alone, basically, is the way Marcus looks at things. So, back to the court filing to close the case due to inactivity. When this happens, Marcus ends up filing a motion again to stop his driver's license from being suspended, which is something that happens to people that don't pay child support. He also takes it upon himself to keep Sailor for 2 whole weeks without telling Cassie a damn thing. Remember, we talked a bit about that in my last video. So this happened, and Cassie had to file an emergency pickup order with the court. And this is what she's referring to in that GoFundMe when her sister sets it up for some lawyer assistance. So July 11th of 2021, Marcus returns Sailor to Cassie. But the very next day, July 12th of 2021, Marcus files 6 motions. And this is the first 6 of more to follow. His first motion is a motion to dismiss. Number 2, he wants Cassie to have a psych eval. Number 3, he wants temporary primary custody. Again. Number 4, he filed a cease and desist in which he asked the courts to make Cassie to not be able to say his name ever again. Yeah, because, you know, it works like that. You can just ask the court, tell that person to keep my name out their mouth. And it just happens. Number 5, he wants a full case transfer to Santa Rosa County. And the reason that I think, now this is all alleged and speculation, that he wants this case transfer is because he has sat here for the last couple years and tried to manipulate the judge in this family court. And when I look at their documents, I see that they were in front of 2 judges. So I'm assuming that this judge has already heard and seen it all and probably passed the information on to the other judge that this guy is a mental case. And he is one of those who is going to file whatever motion he can to avoid child support and to just make the mother of his child her life a living hell. So because he's unable to continue to manipulate, he now wants to move to a totally different court in a totally different state, totally different everything. So request for proof of daycare attendance of Saylor is the 6th and final motion that he filed. And he did this because he's claiming that there are days that Cassie kept Saylor from daycare because she had bruises that she did not want the daycare to see. Now, this is a very bold allegation, and we've been here before, have we not? And yet it always ends up boiling down to just child support and money. It doesn't ever boil down to this child ever being in danger. But here he goes again. Now, if this isn't a sign of a severely desperate control freak losing his shit, then I don't know what is. He just kept his daughter from her mother to the point where the court needed to get involved. And he's feeling a big blow to his ego at this point that he did not get away with this. So what does a narcissist do in this situation? Well, they deflate the enemy's ego. Their ego's been deflated. Now they must deflate the enemy's ego. And the enemy is Cassie. And because remember, he thinks that it's all about control and manipulation for Cassie too. People who are narcissistic and who think this way, they think that everybody thinks this way. For Marcus, it's all about ego and power and control and manipulation. And so he feels that to Cassie, it is about ego and power and control and manipulation. He feels that she is doing the same things to him that he's doing to her. And Cassie could care less about these things. She cares about one thing and one thing only, and that is her daughter, Saylor, and having a relationship with her father and having her father present in her life. But Marcus is delusional. July 29th, Marcus files 7 more motions for civil contempt. This is absolutely 100% a power play to drown Cassie out in financial debt. Remember, his lawyer dropped him. Marcus has no lawyer. He's representing himself. So now this costs him nothing. Maybe a couple filing fees here and there, if that. It costs him nothing for the most part. He can slap all these motions into one filing fee. So what the hell does he care? He's gonna do it. August 4th of 2021, Cassie's lawyer files a 3-page motion in response to these ridiculous claims. And it's a 3-page motion of contempt against Marcus. In this motion was how Marcus kept Saylor for those 2 weeks, leaving Cassie completely frantic and unknowing where her daughter was, unable to speak with her, and unable to even know if she was okay. That during that time that Marcus had taken Saylor, he took her to a mental health professional without Cassie's approval, knowledge, consent. After this, the court set a hearing for October 1st of 2021. So all this other ish is going on and a trial is pending, but Psycho Marcus just can't help himself. And in addition to the slew of motions that he has already filed, he files another one. And before I drop that bomb on you, here's a little preface. So there's been some talk about Marcus having dual citizenship. Marcus is also a citizen of Brazil, where his mother currently lives. And on his Facebook, Marcus posted a photo of Saylor on the beach, and there are some responses to it. And one of them is from Marcus's mother, where she says, "What a mess, counting days and hours." Now, this motion, filed in September of 2021 by Marcus, was to get his passport reinstated. So there have been some questions of, was he planning on taking Sailor to Brazil and basically running away with her without Cassie's knowledge? And with that motion, he also filed another motion to dismiss all child support payments, saying that the current order was unconstitutional. Right, because it's unconstitutional to pay for your child. Can you believe this guy? Are you pissed? Because I'm pissed. Let me at him for a couple of minutes. So it is at this time that Cassie is starting to drown in these legal fees. And her sister goes and starts a GoFundMe. All of Marcus's motions are denied. So that is fabulous. And Destin was to be the court-ordered exchange location for Marcus and Cassie. And Marcus was also ordered to pay Cassie's attorney's fees. Now, in my opinion, the judge saw through all of these crazy motions that Marcus was filing and knew exactly what he was doing, because he's a judge in family court. And like I said, this is a very common tactic. It's happened with me. It's happened with other women that I know. It's happened by women to men that I know. It happens all the time. So he's seen this all before. So now, not only does Marcus need to pay that child support and the back support, he has added some of Cassie's attorney's fees to his obligations, knowing that, he caused a lot of these fees to have racked up. And so now he needs to pay for some of it, which, amazing. Thank you, judge, and thank you, Cassie's lawyer. So January 14th of 2022, this is the beginning of the end, you guys. An affidavit was filed by Cassie's lawyer for Marcus to pay that $6,000 in attorney's fees. March 18th, 2022, the judge gave Marcus 30 days to pay this $6,000, as well as to get current on his child support payments and back support. March 27th, 2022, just 9 days later, Cassie goes missing. 9 days. March 18th, judge says, you gotta pay this money. It's been all these years. You pay this, you got 30 days. 9 days later, on March 27th, Cassie went missing. Coincidence? I think not. Here's some fun facts about Marcus Spanavello, too, before we end this video. Marcus met Cassie in the parking lot that day with his truck and trailer. That's very, very sus to me. Was that the crime scene? I don't know, because there's some other odd things that are going on with this case, and I want to do a separate video on that, because there have been some other names that have popped up. One's name is Sam Roberts. And I am part of a couple Facebook groups about this so that I could get some factual information, and then also hear what the family in town and neighbors and things like that had to say about some things, so that I don't get things screwed up. Now, who is Sam Roberts? Sam Roberts is a friend of Marcus Spanavello's, and he was Facebook friends with him, but I believe that they also knew each other personally. And he's also someone that happens to be called by police to clean up crime scenes. So when I mentioned the truck and the trailer, and then I say, was that maybe the crime scene? I don't know, because supposedly we know she was found in this barn. But where was the crime scene? So this guy is kind of sus. He's been brought into this thing. So Tuesday, April 5th, let's just get into this part right now. Why not? Tuesday, April 5th, he posted an odd message to Facebook that talked about how he befriended Marcus and was helping police to close in on Marcus. And here's that post. Now, a lot of you have probably, this is what he says. A lot of you have probably seen my name and business being dragged through the dirt the last few days on social media. I'm here to publicly announce that I was involved in locating Cassie, Carli, and the apprehension of Marcus Spanavello. I posted a few things that were screenshot on Facebook to earn the further trust of Marcus. My business was bashed, and people took it upon themselves to write and post slandering reviews. This all fell into my lap because Marcus just merely needed someone to vent to. I was able to link Major Crimes Unit to the body by ways of track phone number that Marcus called me from on Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I contacted law enforcement, made a controlled call, and Marcus inquired for me to help clean up the crime scene. Law enforcement was able to track his location, and thankfully I didn't have to travel to Alabama on Saturday to clean the crime scene. I have been cleared by law enforcement as a CI to clear my name and post publicly. Now, there have been a lot of comments on this post. Some people believe him and some people don't. I want to do a whole video on this, so we're not going to get crazy into it right now. Now, they are still Facebook friends. The argument is Sam Roberts was saying some really horrible things in group chats about Cassie being missing and standing up for Marcus Spinovello. However, he says he did this in order to gain trust. Although there are people that think that he maybe was in on this. They were friends. So, according to Sam, he's been cleared by police, and the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office has not confirmed or denied his claim as of yet. So, it's all still up in the air, but I want to look more into it. Hopefully, we'll get some autopsy results by the next video, and we can kind of deep dive into some of the behind-the-scenes stuff here. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you again for putting up with me. I'm sorry, my voice is going now, and my coughing here and there. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys will like. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit that notification bell so that you are alerted every time I put another video out. And please also check and make sure that you're still subscribed, because YouTube likes to kind of play around with that and unsubscribe people here and they're thinking that they're spam. So I've noticed that my subs are going up and down and up and down, and I'm looking, but like I can't figure out where it's coming from, and I've heard other channels complaining about it. So I think it's a YouTube thing. Anyway, love you guys and talk to you with that next video. See you later.